Hey, hi friends, this is Bakkappa. I'll be creating a series of tutorials on SpecFlow BDD automation framework from the scratch. In the today's tutorial, I'll discuss how to get started with the SpecFlow BDD automation framework. I will jump to our agenda now. So firstly, we'll understand what is SpecFlow and difference between BDD and TDD. SpecFlow is an open source and free BDD automation framework for the .NET. And coming to the BDD and TDD, BDD stands for Behavior Driven Development. TDD stands for Test Driven Development. In case of BDD, we will be writing the feature files, which is understandable by the business analyst, development team, stakeholders, or even the testing team. So we will be writing the feature files, which will be easily understandable by the many of the team members who are working in the project. And in case of TDD, so this approach is used by the development team mainly, and so developer will write the test before implementing the feature. So this eventually this test will fail before implementing the feature. They'll run the test after implementing the test, and once they implement the feature, then again the same test will be executed, and during that time, once the feature is implemented, then that particular test case will be passed. So that is how the TDD will be used by the development team mainly. In case of BDD, so this concept or this methodology will be used by the testing team or the end users. So now let us move on to the installation and project creation part. So we need to install SpecFlow for Visual Studio. So only one software is required, and that means extension. By default, you should have the Visual Studio in your system. Then we'll start creating the project. Once we started creating a project, we will discuss about the UI flow, and then we'll start creating the feature file. Inside the feature file, we'll define the scenarios, and for each of the scenarios there will be a number of steps. By using the Gherkin keywords, we'll be defining the steps. So for each of the steps will be mapped to the step definition file class. That means a step definition file class will be connected with the scenario steps. Then we'll be installing the Selenium WebDriver for automating the UI flow. Then also we'll discuss how to navigate between the feature file and the step definition file. And finally, we will execute the feature file. Then we will be seeing the SpecFlow LivingDoc report, where you will see the how many feature files got executed and how many steps are passed and how many scenarios are passed, something like that. So coming to the next slide. So when you create the first time by using the SpecFlow template, once you create a project, so this is a default structure of the project. So here you will see that mainly the solution and followed by the project name, and there are three parts. One is dependency, and the second one is the features, and third one is the step definitions. In case of dependencies, we will be adding the dependencies whatever required for this particular project. In our case, we have to add the Selenium WebDriver to the dependencies. So we'll be adding the Selenium WebDriver to the dependencies by right clicking on the dependencies and going to the manage NuGet packages. And the second part is features. So where we will be creating the feature file. Under that we will be defining the scenario. Inside the scenario, we are using the Gherkin keywords. By using those keywords, we will write the steps. And finally, we have the step definition folder. So inside this step definition folder, we will implement the steps which are there inside the feature file. So this is all about the folder structure for the project. So this is the GitHub link where you will get all the code which we are going to discuss in this tutorial, and also in the upcoming tutorial whatever we are going to discuss. So all the code will be available in this GitHub repository. You can go to the github.com and / you can type Bakkappa. So you can go to the web page, and here once you go to this GitHub repository and navigate to the repositories section, Inside this, you can find the SpecFlow BDD automation framework. So here you will find the whole code which we are going to discuss in this SpecFlow BDD automation framework series. And if you come down here, you will see the content what we are going to discuss in the upcoming tutorials. So this is a brief introduction about the SpecFlow BDD automation framework. Now let us install the SpecFlow for Visual Studio in the Visual Studio. So let us open the Visual Studio now. So after opening the Visual Studio, in my case I'm using the 2022 version, and here you can click on continue without code, and after that you can go to the extensions. Under extensions you can go to the manage extensions. In the right side corner you can see that there is a search box. Simply type SpecFlow. So firstly we will discuss about the installation part, then we will create the new project from the scratch. So in my case already SpecFlow for Visual Studio 2022 it is already installed, and if you see the check mark here, so if you are installing first time, right, so after typing the SpecFlow you'll see something like this. So just you need to type the SpecFlow here on the right side corner, top corner, and you will see the SpecFlow for Visual Studio, and here you will see the download button. Click on download button. After download button you can wait for few seconds and simply close the Visual Studio. Then automatically that particular extension will be installed. After installation you will see this particular successful message. Your modifications have been successfully applied. Then you can restart the Visual Studio. So that's all about the installation part. So this will take few seconds, guys. So firstly you need to search for this extension and click on download. Then you can close the Visual Studio and you can wait for 2 minutes. Then automatically this installation will be started. Then after completion of the installation you will see this successful message. So this is all about the installation part. Now let's create the new project. So I'll go here and simply I'll close this window. You can go to the file and here you can select the new, then select the project option, and here you type SpecFlow. So that's it. So this SpecFlow project template supports for the C# programming language, right? So you can select this particular template and click on next. And here you can provide the project name and also select the required folder where you want to keep this particular project. And you can provide the different name for the solution as well, and it is up to you. So in my case I have selected this particular checkbox so that project name and solution name can be same. So after that simply click on create. So that's it. So after, let's say let me click on this create. So you can provide the proper project name and solution name. After that it comes to this particular window, and here you need to select the .NET version, and also you need to select the test framework. So in my case I have selected the Nunit test framework and I'm using the latest version of the .NET framework. Then you can select this particular checkbox if you want, otherwise you can uncheck it. This is not a mandatory checkbox. Then you say create. After creating, so automatically your project will be opened like this. So in my case I have already created the project and I have opened the solution in the Visual Studio. So once you created a project, and you will see the project folder structure like this. So this folder structure we have already seen in the PPT, right? So installation is done. We have created a project. Now we have to discuss the scenario, that is the UI flow. What we will do, we will go to the youtube.com and here we will search with the testers top. Then we will press enter from the keyboard. So that's it. So this is our scenario. We will firstly write the future file. Inside the future file we will implement the scenario. For that particular scenario we will implement the step definition file. So that's it. So let's go to the Visual Studio now. So I will go to the features folder, and I will right click on that. Here I'll select the add and followed by the new item. So on the left side you will see the SpecFlow. Select the SpecFlow, and here you will see the all the different file types. So we are going to create the feature file. So I will select the feature file for SpecFlow, and you can specify the name of the feature file. So in my case, I'm not giving any specific name. I am keeping it as feature1.feature, and I'll say add. So feature1.feature file got created, and if you see here, we have to specify the feature name, and also we have to specify the short summary of the feature. Sorry, so I will specify the feature name. I'll say YouTube search feature, and I will provide the summary as search for the testers top. So that's it. So coming to the line number 5, so here you are seeing the tag name. So I will specify the tag name as testers talk. That's it. Now we have to give the scenario name, and followed by we have the 3 steps. So these are the Gherkin keywords where you can specify the step name. So there are multiple Gherkin keywords. Right now it is displayed only 3: given, when, and then. Even there is an and as well. So you can use those keywords, and you can enhance the scenario as well. So in my case, I will keep it simple. This particular scenario, I will say here search for testers talk, right? So we are going to test the search functionality in the YouTube application, right? So that's the reason I have written YouTube search feature, then followed by search for the testers talk. So here we are entering the testers talk in the search box. So now we have provided the tag name, then we have provided the scenario name as well. Then now we will write the step. What I will do first, I'll say open the browser. We have to open the browser first, because without opening the browser we can't perform anything, right? So that will be the first step. Open the browser and enter the URL, that is our youtube.com. Then finally I will say search for the testers talk. That's it. So our feature file is ready. So this is our feature. And now what I will do, I will go to the step definition. So feature file is ready. So we have to write the logic to invoke these particular steps, right? I will copy this particular class, that is calculator step definitions, and I will paste it inside the step definition folder. I will rename this file name as feature1 step definition.cs. So that's it. I will open the step definition file, and I will delete all the steps which are there inside this particular class. So that's it. I will rename the class name as future step definitions. So that's it. So now we have the feature file, and we have the step definition file, right? Step definition class. So you can go to the feature1.feature, then right click on this one. You say just define steps. You need to select the option as define steps. So SpecFlow will help you to generate the steps. So I'll simply click on copy to clipboard. That's it, guys. So no need to write the each steps manually. So SpecFlow provides a awesome feature to generate the steps automatically. So go to the again future step definition class and simply paste it here. So that's it. We have created the feature file, and we have implemented the step definition class. Now we need to write a logic to invoke the browser. So for this thing, what you need to do is we need to add the Selenium WebDriver, right? So to add a Selenium WebDriver, you need to right click on the dependencies and you need to go to the manage NuGet packages. So we are using the almost latest version of the Selenium WebDriver, that is 4.6.0. So no need to download the any drivers. It can be Chrome browser driver or it can be Edge browser driver. So here simply type for Selenium. So that's it. You can come down and here you will find the selenium.webdriver. So this is the latest version, that is 4.7.0. You can go ahead and use the latest version, that is also not an issue. In my case, I will say install. I'll be installing the 4.6.0. So still it should work fine. So whatever the features you are implementing and executing it in the latest version of the Selenium, it will work fine without prompting any issues. So after clicking on install, you can go to the install tab and you will be able to see the selenium.webdriver and followed by the version, whichever the version you have installed. So once you have this confirmation, you can simply close this tab, right? So that's it, guys. So now we have to implement the code which will launch the browser firstly, right? So I'll go to the first step. So open the browser, right? So here I'll say, here I'm creating the object of Chrome driver. So this will launches the Chrome browser, right? So what I will do here, I'll assign it back to the driver object. So that's it. So as we need to use this driver object in the next steps as well, while entering the URL, while finding an element also, we have to use the driver object. For that reason, I will define it as a globally. Here I'll say private. Here I'll say iWebDriver. That's it. You can import the iWebDriver. So you can say using openqa.selenium. And similarly, you can import the Chrome driver. So that's it. So this will opens up the Chrome browser and we have to enter the URL. So that is our next step. We have to enter the URL. So I will use this driver object and I will call to the method called URL. So here we have to specify the URL. So we are going to open the youtube.com, right? So I will specify youtube.com. So that's it. We have opened the browser, then we have entered the URL, then we have to find the search text box, right? I'll go to the web browser now. I will inspect this search text box. And if I come right side, so here I'll be using the name attribute and it has the search underscore query as the value. So here I'm writing the Xpath to / followed by @name is equal to. So I'll specify the value. So it is highlighting the search text box, right? I'll copy this one and I'll go to the IDE now. Here I'm using the driver object dot, I'll say find element and followed by, I'm specifying the locator type. Here I'll specify the Xpath. Inside the string I'll specify the Xpath value. And after that I will have to use the send keys because we have to enter the testers doc in this particular text box. So here I'll say testers doc. So that's it. We have identified this particular text box and we have entered the value. Then we have to press the enter from the keyboard. So for that reason I will use the same element and I'll use the send keys, and inside the send keys I will pass the keys dot enter. So that will press the enter from the keyboard, right? So I will use the send keys. Inside this I will use the keys dot enter. So this will press the enter from the keyboard, and after pressing enter from the keyboard I will wait for some time. So here I'll write thread dot sleep, and here I'll say 5000 as milliseconds, that means 5 seconds. Then finally we will close the browser. I'll use the driver object dot, I'll say quit. So this will closes the browser, right? So what I will do, I will simply copy this thread dot sleep and I'll paste it after the line number 20. After entering the URL, so it will take some time to load the youtube.com. Then it will find this particular text box, that is a search text box, and it will enter the tester stock, and it will press the enter from the keyboard, and it will wait for some time, and finally it will close the browser, right? So another one command I will use it here. Here I'll use the driver object. I'll simply maximize the browser after opening the Chrome browser. Here I'll say window dot maximize, right? So that's it, guys. Let me close all this stuff. Okay, guys. So let me summarize what we have done so far. We have created a feature file, and which contains 3 steps, which will open the browser and it will enter the URL. Then it will search for the tester stock, right? So this is our feature file. Then we have implemented the feature step definition class. So inside this we have written the Selenium WebDriver code, which will launch the browser. Then it will enter the URL. Then it finds the search text box. Then finally it will close the browser, right? So that's it, guys. Now what you need to do, simply right click on this solution and say build solution. So once build is succeeded, you can go to the test and open the test explorer. So if you come here on the left side, you will see that there is a group called tester stock. So this is the name coming from the feature file. If you go to the feature1.feature, and here I have provided the tag name as a tester stock. So that's the reason there is a one group created called tester stock, and inside this one, so there is a one scenario, and if you see this one, search for tester stock. So this is a scenario name coming up from this particular feature file. So if you look at this scenario name, search for tester stock, right? So this is how it is populated in the test explorer. So that's it. Right click on this tester stock and say run. So it is very simple. So create the feature file and define the step definition class, then execute the scenarios which you wanted to execute it. So it has opened the browser, then it has entered the youtube.com. Now it has to identify the text box and it has to enter the value. So finally it has performed the operation correctly. And if I select this particular scenario, and these are the three steps. First step is given, open the browser, and second step when enter the URL, and third step you can see that search for the tester stock. And you can see on the right side how long this particular step has executed. You can see that 16.9, and the second step took 16.7 seconds, and the third step it took 6.8 seconds, right? So this is how you can create the any feature file, any number of feature files, and you can execute the scenarios based on the feature or based on the tag names, right? So this is all about creating the project and executing the features. So now we will discuss how to generate the SpecFlow LivingDoc report, right? So what you need to do is, so it has only 3 steps you need to follow and you will get the .html report. So firstly you need to execute this particular command, that is .NET space tool space install and space hyphen global space specflow dot plus dot livingdoc dot CLI. So you need to copy this particular command. I mean, you need to enter this particular command in the command prompt. Go to the command prompt, simply enter this particular command. So in my case, already this particular SpecFlow command is executed. That means software is already installed in my system. And if you are executing very first time, so you'll see this message. Tool specflow plus living.cli version 3.9.57 was successfully installed. So when you install first time, you will see this particular message. That means SpecFlow living.software is installed in your system properly. So this is the first step, and second step is you need to navigate to this particular folder. That is, you need to go to the project folder and followed by the bin and followed by the debug. Inside the debug, there is a one folder called net 6.0. So I'll go to this particular folder now. Bin debug, then net 6.0, right? So here you need to do the cd command, right? You need to do the change directory. So now I'm in this particular directory, right? So that is our second step, right? So we have the last step. So simply copy this command, that is livingdoc space test hyphen assembly space. So here you need to specify the project name .dll space hyphen t space test execution .json. So this is the command you have to enter, and finally you will see like this command, like this message, your livingdoc.html was successfully generated. So once you get this message, that means your Specflow BDD report is generated. Simply copy this command. So no need to worry about these commands. I will provide all these comments in the description of this below video. Simply I'll copy this command. I'll go to the command prompt and I'll paste it. So here we have to provide project name, right? So I will simply copy this project name. So that's it. I'll say enter. And if you look at here, so in this particular location, livingdoc.html was successfully generated. Once you got this message, that means your report is got generated for the Specflow BDD. You can go to that particular location, and here you can click on date modified, right? So this is the last document modified at very recently, right? Simply I'll open this livingdoc.html file, and you will be able to see the whole report, like which feature file executed, how many scenarios are there, how many steps are there, right? So here you will see the two tabs. One is living documentation and second one is analytics. In this living documentation, so you can specifically search for any of the feature files. If I expand this, so if I search for the YouTube, only this particular feature file is coming up. So this is a feature, this is a filter. You can search with the feature name or the scenario name, and you can come to this scenario. There's another filter also, scenario result. So you can select any of these option. If you want to view only past result, only past result will be displayed here. And if I select failed one, there are none actually, right? So simply I'll unselect this one. I will expand these folders, right? Once you select this particular feature file or the scenario, on the right side you will see that details about the feature file. So these details are fetching from your feature file. So this is the feature name we have specified, and we have given the summary for that particular feature file, and we have given the tag name, and followed by the scenario details. That means the scenario name and followed by the steps. So these details are coming up from our feature file. So now I will go to this analytics, and here you will see that how many features are there totally. So we have total 2 features. If you look at this project, we have one feature called calculator, and another one we have the feature 1.feature, two feature files. So one is passed, another one is not executed, and there are 0 failures. And if you look at here scenarios, how many scenarios we have? Only one. If you look at the feature file, we have the only one scenario here, right? So similarly, if you come here in the steps, so this is a feature section, this is a scenario section. That means at the scenario level you can view the result, and the third section we have the steps level. How many steps are there in that particular scenario? So we had only one scenario. That particular scenario contains 3 steps. If you look at this one feature file, we have the only 3 steps. So now what I will do is, let us try to add the same scenario once again, right? So that means I will simply execute this particular scenario. I'll say test2. So simply I'll modify the scenario name. So simply I have specified the scenario name as testers talk to. So that's it. I will simply go to the, I'll simply build this project. So at high level, so these are the 3 sections you can verify the result at the feature level and scenario level and steps level. So now we are executing our feature file, which has the 2 scenarios, right? So let me go to the test explorer, and if you see here, there are 2 scenarios belong to the tester stock, because we have represented these 2 scenarios with the @tester stock as the tag name. So I will simply execute this particular group. That means the tag name. By tag name we are executing the automation scripts. So our first script got executed. That means one scenario got executed. Now the second scenario is getting executed. So that's it. So whenever you need a new report, you need to always execute this particular command, right? So we'll execute the same command once again, and once we see this message, right, so report got generated successfully, I will come here and I will refresh this. If you see here in the living documentation, there are 2 scenarios under this particular feature. So if you selected this particular feature, and you will see that these are the first, this is the first scenario and this is a second scenario. And if I go to the analytics and number of scenarios, you will see that two scenarios got executed, and the number of steps, you will see that 6, because in this particular feature file there are 6 steps. So this is how you can create the SpecFlow BDD automation framework from the scratch, and you can try the same thing in your system and let me know if you are having any issues or any queries. You can comment in the comment section, and thanks for watching this tutorial.